10,000 modern US Army soldiers are currently death charging a beach invasion. Their enemies? Every single medieval army in Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator 2 being carried in on LCVP Higgins boats. We're talking the French army, samurai, Celtic warriors, Saxons, heavy knights, Templar knights, Roman Praetorian guards, archers, catapults, and more, all death charging the beaches here. But this is just the first battle of this video. This is the Vanguard. 5 million medieval soldiers charging just 10,000 US Army soldiers and 250 M1 Abrams. The result of this battle here will determine how hard the next wave of medieval soldiers and US Army soldiers have to fight, because both waves will be getting reinforcements. The US Army will be getting additional technology as well as more soldiers with a wider variety of weaponry and an actual defensive position to hold. Meanwhile, the medieval soldiers will be getting 10 million reinforcements. And however many soldiers are left standing on the battlefield from their starting 5 million of this battle will be spawning in on the beach itself, giving them a one-up on the US Army troopers. So it's up to this Vanguard to either kill the US Army soldiers without taking losses, or for the US Army to wipe out a huge amount of these medieval soldiers to balance the next battle. This is going to determine who gets the advantage in the next battle of this US Army beach defense against every medieval army. Now, we've got the US Army Vanguard beginning their fire. We can see there is M1 Abrams fire shooting out here. They are pretty powerful. They do have nice HE shots that do pretty good distributed damage amongst a few soldiers, but the main purpose of these Abrams in these battles tends to be armor. They can withstand so many hacks and slashes from medieval swords, of course, before they end up dying, because I believe they have like 20,000 health or something like that. We can actually check. Yep, 20,000 health on the nose right there. And so they are here to kind of keep the rest of the US Army soldiers as alive as possible for as long as possible. Now, if they do all fall, the US Army soldiers will be going down way more rapidly here, and that will be a problem. Right now, over this way, lots of catapult shots hitting the US Army over here. I did not expect so many boulders getting thrown out right off rip. I mean, these catapults are super easy to kill because they have such low health. They're just made out of wood, so a few bullets will take them out, but when there's so many throwing so many stones at the US Army, that's going to definitely cause some problems here. The US Army is already up to about 35,000 kills on the battlefield. The enemies are at about 2,000 kills on the battlefield right now. I'm hoping the US Army at the end of this thing can maybe get 1 million kills to make it so there's only about 4 million medieval soldiers spawning on the battlefield, and the rest have to come in from LCVP Higgins boats. However, I'm not sure. They're just not getting the exact number of kills I would like to be seeing in terms of ratio to the number of soldiers that they're currently having dying. And I think a big part of that is the catapults over here. They're just being way more devastating than I think I imagined them being. So getting to that 1 million kills mark on this first wave is going to be exceptionally difficult, I think. We are almost up to 100,000 kills, though, which is pretty good, but so many of the US Army infantry over here is already dead, and it's barely begun. So we don't love to see that. No sirree Bob, that's pretty rough. But the flanks over here don't have those same catapults, so these guys over this way are actually doing fairly decently. I am seeing some arrows coming into play here, and those will kill the US Army infantry a lot easier, but they have pretty heavy armor, so they can withstand a few of those shots. Plus, some of them will dink off of the ballistic armor. That is a feature in Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator 2, so that could certainly help as well. But as it stands right now, they did just crest over 100,000 kills against the enemy, which is quite impressive. And they've got about half their force remaining. About 5,000 US Army soldiers do remain on the battlefield. 4.74 million medieval soldiers remain. Let's go ahead and overhead time-lapse this thing, and we're just hoping that they can get some serious kills before the end of this thing and maybe get 1,000,000 kills. Let's see. What's up, gamers? I'm here to tell you about Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming is an amazing place where you can get some fire deals on all sorts of video games. Seriously, it's like 60 to 95% off, as you can see here. These are all of the Star Wars titles they have. They literally have every Star Wars title. You can also get XCOM here, Medieval Assault Squad 2, all of the games I play on the channel you can buy here for extremely cheap prices. If you use my affiliate link in the description, it helps me out a ton. So thank you guys for listening to this sponsorship, and thank you to Instant Gaming for continuing to sponsor the channel. Well, guys, we have a victory for the medieval soldiers here. Now, technically, the troops on the ground got 500,000 kills against them. However, you'll notice at the top right that more medieval soldiers are continuing to die. That's because as they spawn in, they die. So let's go ahead and even it out to 1,000,000 kills. So that way 4,000,000 soldiers are going to be spawning on the beaches for the medieval troops. Let's set it up. Alright, boys, we have our 4,000,000 medieval army soldiers on the battlefield. We're going with the Mongolians and the heavy knights to start on the beach itself, and then all of the rest of the reinforcements will come in. 6,000,000 reinforcements coming in. I couldn't get the additional 4,000,000 in, so there's 10,000,000 total on the battlefield right now. If they lose this battle, we will then reset it and do 4,000,000 extra who spawn on the beach of the strongest units. So that makes it work. Basically, the game couldn't handle 14,000,000 units on the battlefield at once. Let's go ahead and press start here. These guys are on free roaming. Hold on. Alright, now the units are on defense mode. Let's go ahead and press start here as the 4,000,000 heavy knights and Mongolian soldiers death charge in, and it truly is a death charge. These sea whizzes firing thousands of rounds every second collectively and just grinding through those enemies. At the front lines, we do have the M1 tanks, and they are going to be able to resist, I think, a lot of these swords and shields clashing against them for quite some time. Behind them, getting a good amount of steady output fire is going to be the M4 soldiers, and then backing all of these guys up is going to be the ghillie suit snipers at the very top of the hill here. Now, their flanks are covered by light machine gunners over this way, who are quite a powerful unit. We just saw them the other day defending a bridge defense against 10,000,000 Roman soldiers, so that was pretty cool. They will be getting flanked over here, almost completely sure of that. It would be pretty weird if they didn't. And then over this way, we've got our shotgun assault units. These guys are extremely heavily armored with blast protection armor, so they'll be able to resist those catapult shots a little bit better, but they are getting death charged by heavy knights right now, and they are getting flanked over this way, where I could definitely see these heavy knights making contact with them pretty quickly. Right now they're being held at bay, but it seems like the heavy knights are just going to get more reinforcements in, and these guys might be one of the first straws to fall in this battle. Not totally sure about that, but definitely could be happening. Now, oh, my kitty just meowed. Now, at the very front lines over the, well, not front lines, the back lines for the attackers over here, we've got medieval knights coming in with the rest of the reinforcements. We're talking our English troopers, French troopers, Roman troopers, Saxons, Celtic troopers, samurai, etc., etc., etc. All of the remaining medieval units that didn't spawn on the beach itself are coming in, and what's nice is they're not going to be trickling in from the boats because they have that 4,000,000 wall of troopers right ahead of them ready to attack, and so those guys can just join the line and get ready for the assault. Now the sea whizzes and snipers are going to be getting kills this whole time. We did see in the way back over here already some serious losses for the guys getting off the boats. Probably just a Sea Whiz hit here, or maybe an M1 Abrams shot or two, you know, just all these little clusters of dead troopers is simply from the heavy units at the front lines over here shooting in the back and happening to get a kill or two there. So that's going to be helpful, is that even a missed shot in this could potentially get some kills. Now, right now, the defenders already are up to 500,000 kills. They have lost 28 soldiers, and I think those numbers are only going to be going up, up, up as the flanks do start coming in. Mongolian soldiers flanking on the far left side over here. Light machine gunners should be able to deal with them pretty nicely, although I think as they get more and more reinforcements over here, it could get harder and harder. Also, as the catapults and archers end up getting to the front lines, that's when things could start going poorly for the defenders. They have crossed over 100 losses now. They're at 125. And as you can see, the heavy knights coming in the flank over here towards the shotgun unit and swinging their swords, getting some serious hits in there and getting some kills. So this is probably the weakest point on the entire battlefield. Could result in the collapse of this side, and then the ghillie suit snipers could start getting attacked dead on over there. Looks like a few Abrams fell off the cliff over this way and are down here in a bit of a last stand. And I mean, that's okay, because they're going to be doing some distractions down here. Even though they're almost guaranteed death eventually, at least they'll distract a lot of troopers from reinforcing the actual front line, and it gets them some kills and distraction points, all that good stuff going on right there. So we are up to about 400 losses for the U.S. Army. They only have 71,700 troopers on the battlefield, so each soldier counts a lot more than the attackers, and we've got 8.29 million attackers remaining, which is, they are losing soldiers rapidly. And remember, they will still get 4 million reinforcements after this battle. So even if the U.S. Army does win this battle, the medieval units will have 4 million additional soldiers. So there is a long road for the U.S. Army to go through right now. And over here, it does look a little bit troubling. So why don't we time-lapse this side over here, watching as these shotgun units get torn apart by incoming swordsmen. Okay, heavy knights have made it through, and it's important to note that we do have catapults now reaching the front line. So 6,000 U.S. Army soldiers are gone at this point. 65,900 remain, and 5.9 million enemies remain as well. So things are steadily progressing here. The defenders are losing soldiers, but it's mainly on the right side. That's still definitely their weakest point. Some of these Abrams are getting pretty darn beat up, man. The catapult's also coming in on the right side, so that's going to make that a bit of a double whammy area. Over here, the light machine gunners are doing fine, though. Look at this. They've only taken a few losses, it appears, and the body pile of Mongolian soldiers over here is just growing and growing and growing. That is absolutely insane over that way. Ghillie suit snipers still not under threat, but soon enough they will be as these heavy knights continue to pummel on in. So let's keep watching over here, as these guys, I think, are going to be the troublesome ones in this battle. Oh man, my cat went and stepped on the thing and moved the time-lapse. Okay, sorry about that, boys, but that's okay. More of these soldiers over here have died at this point. There's only 3.3 million remaining medieval army units, though, so that's not too bad. 59,000 remaining U.S. Army units, and remember, for the next battle, however many they lose is how many they're going to have in the next one. I said that wrong. However many they have left is how many soldiers they're going to have in the next battle against the additional medieval army units coming in. Now, this flank, again, over here is definitely the area of most problematic situations. I guess that's a way to put it, for the U.S. Army. The other areas, though, they're doing just fine. Some of the Abrams over here are pretty heavily damaged, and I think maybe a couple of them died, but overall, they're still doing A-okay. Yeah, it's really just that left flank that's a problem. Everywhere else is doing great. So why don't we do an overhead time lapse over here, watching the medieval army units charging in and the defenders firing away. Okay, just a few more minutes have passed there, and the front line's still holding very strong. Only 2.5 million attackers remain. They've almost completely wiped out the shotgun units over here, and you can actually see some catapult splashes hitting over this way again. Those catapults still coming in that way, which is good. And overall, I think the U.S. Army is going to get the dub in this portion of the battle. But remember, there's still one more wave coming forward, and the U.S. Army is going to have at least 20,000 less soldiers during that. And they're going to have to fight a bunch of people already spawned in on the beach. So it's going to be rough. But overall, I think they are poising themselves in a good place to intercept that next wave rather nicely. Just trying to get a good area here. There we go. Let's time lapse this. All right, we're down to the last million soldiers attacking currently. We are at 49,600 U.S. Army troops remaining at this point. This left flank is now resulting in some of these ghillie suit snipers actually getting eaten into. The right flank is doing perfectly fine, though. They never had much of a problem, it seems. It's more so the shotgun units and now the ghillie suit snipers that are having issues, but even still, it's mainly just archers eating into them now over here, which could potentially actually do quite a bit more damage. Having a ranged unit firing over this hill out of line of sight is going to be very, very effective for the attackers, but I think it's probably too far gone for them to get an actual W here. It's more about draining the U.S. Army for the next wave that comes in. Of 4 million soldiers. I might bump it up to 5 million soldiers. I probably will bump it to 5 million because we fudged the numbers a little bit in the first round because they got 500,000 kills and we upped it to 1 million. So why don't we give them 5 million troopers in the next round, just to even things out a little bit more so. Either way, let's continue watching here. 1 million attackers remain, 48,800 U.S. Army soldiers remain. Alright, boys, there's only 19,000 medieval soldiers remaining here, and they're getting absolutely gutted. We've pretty much stopped losing U.S. Army soldiers at this point, which is good. They're at 45,000 remaining soldiers. Not bad in the slightest. Let's go ahead and get the last 5 million medieval soldiers and 45,000 survivors on the battlefield now. Alright, boys, I tried to get the numbers as exact as possible, but we've got 44,467 U.S. Army soldiers defending, so I guess a few more died from wounds, and then 5.4 million medieval soldiers on the battlefield now, death charging the final assault here, the final possibility for the medieval soldiers to get a W. No one should be coming in on the boats. They're all on the battlefield now, and In total, we've had over 20 million medieval soldiers fighting against about 200,000 U.S. Army soldiers in the course of this whole thing. Now, I tried to make the flank line over here as poor as possible since this is the area that got wiped out last time, keeping this as big as possible too, but these guys did get shrunk a little bit, as well as the ghillie suit snipers. This front line remains intact because they didn't get hurt at all during the last battle, and the Sea Whizzes remain intact. And the Abrams, we subtracted a few of them, not a ton, but a few. Actually, down here, they're getting hit by just thousands of arrows all simultaneously. Look at that. That's absolutely nuts, as a lot of archers seem to have spawned in on the front line here, and we've got the rest of the medieval armies coming in behind them, approaching. We've got the catapults in the middle here. They're getting gunned down already all the way back here just from stray bullets. That shows how poorly they're made. They have almost no health at all. They're just kind of garbage units on the battlefield. But the first of the melee units is now reaching the front lines here, getting up there and starting to stabby stab against some of these M1 Abrams tanks that are up this way. We've also got the flank units over here getting involved and managing to reach the light machine gunners over here, and I'm guessing the same is happening over this way. Not quite, yeah, but a little bit. So these guys, again, probably going to end up being the weakest link on the battlefield. Let's watch these guys to start because, yeah, again, these guys are pretty weak in general. Alright boyos, so this flank ended up being very successful over here, and we have droves of medieval soldiers coming down and attacking the ghillie suit snipers over this way. The defenders have gotten 1.6 million kills now. However, the catapults getting completely on the flank over here, look at this, they're just wrapping all the way around and firing into the backs of these guys, even taking out some Sea Whizzes. That's a major problem. The front lines over here with the M1 Abrams still holding pretty solidly, and these guys on this flank over here also holding okay, but the flank is really devastating at the moment, and I'm not sure if the ghillie suit snipers can really survive this huge onslaught from a massive amount of catapult fire. That is just maybe too deadly for them to handle. There's still a few Sea Whizzes firing away, which is more than welcome because they need them, but the fact that these catapults have gone on the flank is possibly the worst case scenario. If they all stuck to the front lines and didn't wrap around to the flank, I think the Sea Whizzes and the M1 Abrams would be able to explode them with ease and it would be no big deal. But the fact that they're on the flank all the way over here is a big deal. So why don't we go ahead and watch them flanking around. They're getting all the way up to the light machine gunners over here, which is very problematic. And I think it might be Jover pretty soon for the U.S. Army. But let's watch around here so that way we can see the ghillie suit snipers over this way. We could see the dudes coming in straight ahead. And then we could also see the wraparound flank of the light machine gunners over there. But yeah, things are looking a little bit abysmal at the moment. Well, fellas, the medieval army has completely overtaken and destroyed the modern soldiers there, with still 3 million medieval army soldiers remaining. Absolutely insane. I think the fact that there were so many catapults on the flank, whereas before they came head on and also died while trying to spawn in the water, is what really made the difference here. But this was a 3-tiered battle, and the modern army did quite well for themselves throughout this whole thing, killing like 17 million medieval soldiers or more. Absolutely insane work. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below. I'll see you on the next one. Peace. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Be sure to click that subscribe button for more content, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be alerted to whenever I live stream or upload. Thanks so much.